How's it going, everybody? Today, I'm going to make a review of my Omega Speedmaster. This is the version that's with the 1861 movement, so this is the previous version, and this one has a Hesalite crystal. This is the one that came with the big presentation kit, so that's the one I'm going to look at. I don't actually have the new one. I've seen it before, so I can kind of have a bit of a reference point, but I've never actually owned it myself. So everyone knows the history of the Omega Speedmaster. It's one of the most iconic watches of all time. Um, Space landing, all that stuff. I won't get into that because I would imagine by the time you're seeing this video, you probably know that already. But just briefly with that history, that definitely adds some appeal. I'm not so much one who is tied to the history and nostalgia of every single watch I buy, but you know, obviously this factors into that one, this one, right? So, just fantastic. Just the overall design of this watch, really classic. You can see here it's got basically printed dial. There's a little bit of polish on the flanks here. The wonderful lyre style lugs that is typical Omega. The Hesalite crystal bubbles nicely, which I really like. And just the overall design is very classic. It's definitely kind of a sports watch look, but I think you can also dress this watch up too, just because of the design. The dial, as I said, is just printed. This older version here just has a printed Omega logo too. If you get the new Sapphire Sandwich one, you do get that applied logo. It doesn't really bother me so much because the chronograph hand, you don't really use that often, right? So it's basically covering it up most of the time, so it's not a huge deal to me. But yeah, the dial's quite basic. It's really easy to read. If you're kind of expecting something to pop a little bit with like applied indices, this is not your watch. But yeah, dial really nice and clean, super easy to read. There's no date on this, so keep that in mind. The movement is the caliber 1861. Pretty popular movement, been around a long time, based on a Lemania movement from what I understand. I've never actually owned a Lemania movement aside from this one, so this is my only experience with that movement. For me, the accuracy of this is pretty good. It's roughly anecdotally plus 9, plus 10 or so. It's not costs or anything like that. Like my Tudor Breitlings, they're a lot more accurate than this one. But I personally don't care. I don't really buy watches for accuracy, but you won't get the best accuracy out of this one based on my experience. It does no hacking, so you can't really sync the seconds perfectly if you're into that. Again, for me, it's not a huge deal, but keep that in mind. The new version, of course, it has all the hacking and it's METAS certified, so it's going to be a lot more accurate than this one. This one is not a column wheel chronograph, so you can hear it click here. It's not as nice as a column wheel. I have a Breitling B01 chronograph with a column wheel, and the action is different. It's a little more crisper. That's the best way I can describe it. It's just when you click the button, it's just a little nicer. However, this is quite nice too. There is a bit of play when you click it, but again, it's not something that I would typically obsess about. So for me, you know, the chronograph works perfectly fine for what I'd need it for. I mostly just like the looks of the watch, honestly. But yeah, not quite as nice. It has no screw down pushers, no screw down crown. This one is manual wind. You can hear it winding here. It's quite nice to wind. It's a little clickety-clackety. It's not as smooth as some more modern movements. So, for example, the Tudor movements, buttery smooth, really nice. This one is, I don't know, it's hard to explain. I guess maybe that's just an older movement sound or feel, but it's kind of fun too. It's, you know, it's its own thing, right? So I don't know. I like that as well. Again, it's not my only watch, so I could choose between others. But yeah, winding this thing is not as smooth. It's a little almost clickety-clackety when you're winding it. But yeah, it's a fun experience with the manual wind, I think. I don't have any other manual wind watches other than this one, and it definitely adds some variety. You got to remember to wind it. I wind it basically in the morning. So every morning I wake up, when I'm going to be rotating this watch in, I'll just wind it, and then it's good at least till the next morning. So that's kind of how I do it. And it just works that way, so very nice. The bracelet on this watch, you can see this here. It's an older style Omega. For what I understand, this bracelet came out, originally the design for this bracelet came out in the 90s, and then, you know, roughly 10 years ago or so, they added screws. Maybe look that up if you want to be specific on those dates. I don't know for sure. Someone can correct me. But yeah, it's the bracelet's pretty good. I think that this bracelet adds a bit more heft to the watch. So versus the new bracelet, it tapers quite a bit and it's a lot thinner. a lot skinnier because of the taper. This one is not tapered at all, so it kind of adds a bit of heft, which personally I like. But yeah, if you have a smaller wrist potentially, it might not be as good for you because it has the protruding male center link on the end link there. So that, you know, that's not that great because it increases the lug to lug of the watch, and some folks don't like that. The clasp one here, only 2 micro adjustments, which is a little unfortunate, and the new one basically keeps that trend. This one here, as I said, it doesn't taper. The clasp is okay. It's not the best. It's not the worst. It's better than a friction style clasp. It's a little easier to use, but yeah, not the best clasp. So this one, as I said, has the Hesalite. I looked at the Sapphire Sandwich version as well back when I got this a while back, but it was either I get the Sapphire and I don't get that awesome bubble crystal, or if I get the Hesalite and I don't get the awesome see-through case back with the nicer movement. Ultimately, I chose the Hesalite because I find that, you know, I'm wearing the watch most of the time, and so that's where I like to see that bubble up. And for me, that's what sealed the deal. That's what I liked about it. The negatives of this watch, I would say, you know, again, the accuracy for this particular model, if you're somebody who's a stickler for accuracy and that's really what you like about watches, that might be a bit of a sore spot. The bracelet, as I said, for me, again, I like that it adds a bit of heft. And so that leads into the main criticism I had for this watch when I got it, is that if you're someone who is used to wearing larger watches and you got big wrists like me, you like bigger watches, like I love the bigger Tudor Black Bays, I love Breitling Chronomats, like I'm all about that stuff. This might be a little bit, you know, feel a little bit diminutive to you. It's quite light. I know it's a 42 millimeter, and that was really big when it came out, but I think that that's a normal size for most people nowadays. Although a lot of folks like smaller watches now, which is fine. But for me, I was used to wearing an Oris Aquis all the time, or a Seiko Turtle. So when I got this watch, it was, you know, it was a little small. I had always worn bigger watches back in the days when I wasn't really buying mechanical watches, and so. You know, for me, that was the major thing for me. But once you wear it, it becomes very comfortable, and the size helps it fit into any setting. So you can wear this, in my opinion, as a dress watch, no problem. If you can wear a Submariner, you can wear this. Most people don't really care about dress watches, and the fact that you need to wear one, that's more of a watch enthusiast concern. So, you know, this one here, this will go with anything. You can sub this out for bracelets, straps, and all that. Going back to the negative of the bracelet, I have heard that you can get the new bracelet from the new Omega Speedmaster on this watch, and I'd never tried it before. I've just seen posts about it. I've seen pictures of it, so maybe take what I'm saying with a grain of salt and do your own research, because I've never actually tried it nor seen it in person, just saying based on what I've seen online in various group chats and stuff like that. So, but yeah, overall, this is an amazing piece. It's one of the best watches I think you can get. I think that if you're somebody who really wants history, this has unbeatable history. The aesthetic is timeless. It looks classic. It's got a sort of this version here, at least with the Hesalite, has a very tooly look. It's not very flashy, in my opinion. It's not like my blinged out Chronomat. This is a lot more toned down. So if you're looking for the kind of look like that, this is, you know, it's a great looking piece. So yeah, overall, everyone knows the Speedmaster. I'm not saying anything new here. It's just a wonderful piece, and I highly encourage anybody to pick one up if they've got a chance, or maybe check it out. Yeah, thanks for watching my video, and all the best. Take care. Bye-bye.